Hi there. I'm just giving folks a few minutes to trickle in, so I just wanted to get on a little bit early so that people had time to find us. Ooh, I should have gotten more water while I was up. Darn. So I was going to tell you to make sure you're prepared by getting something to drink and settling yourself in. I'm just going to hit some buttons here to invite folks over. Let's see. It's strange. My invite, hi Tori. My invite list only includes like 6 people on Facebook for some reason. I don't know what that's about. Let's see. I bet you I can invite. Oh, look at this. Okay, figuring it out. So feel free to settle in. Get yourself some yummy treats for lunch. I won't be eating because I don't think you want to listen to me chew. And join us. Hey, Tori, it's good to see you. Let's put this away. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Shyla. Hi, it's so cool you guys are joining. I'm really excited. I just got out of 2 online therapy sessions right before this. I was watching the clock thinking like, okay, I have to make sure that I end on time so I can get to you guys and answer some questions. So this behind me, while we're just kind of hanging out, is my very fancy online office. It is a screen that I ordered from Amazon. I had really big dreams of making my office fancy. My office is also my guest room. And when I started looking at how much money all of that was going to cost, I quickly changed my mind, and I think I paid like $50 or something for that screen. I just pop it up before I have sessions and lock the dogs out so they don't knock it over, and off we go. So there's some really beautiful ones. If I could go back and do it again, so since you guys are on here early, I'll give you like an early bird secret tip. If I could do it again, I would have gotten these bars that you can attach to your ceiling, and then you hook this it's basically like a drape that goes behind you. That way you can just shove it out of the way when you're not using it, or have it up behind you, and it just looks really pretty. And they have a bunch of different scenes and stuff that you can get on Amazon. They're pretty cheap, so you can change them out, or you can keep the same one. Yeah, you can start the list of things to have. Yeah, it's really neat, and it's like, gets out of the way, whereas this thing I fold up and I have to store it, which is a little bit annoying because I live in a tiny little house. But yeah, none of that is essential, right? Yeah, they're probably at IKEA too. Yeah. I've saved them in my wish list of things to get in the future. I also bought this cool little light. It's a round light. I'll show it to you. Well, maybe I'll show it to you. Maybe I'll knock things over. It's this guy. It's a round light that I set behind my computer because when I'm doing sessions at night, the light in my, sorry for all the wiggling around, the light in my office comes from over my head and behind me, so it casts my face in shadow, which is not very rapport building. They have those round lights also on Amazon, who are not paying me to promote them. And you can get them either very, very expensive, or you can get them very, very cheap. And I bought the cheap one, and the cheap one works just fine. So you can turn on, make sure you get the one with the dimmer switch if you're going to get one. Alternatively, just get a couple of lamps and make sure that the shades are adjustable so you can light your face well and people can see you. I think we've got, it's 12 o'clock now, so we have a few people on. Let's go ahead and start with some questions. So what do you need to know? You got me for 50 minutes to an hour, depending on how long we have questions coming through. And be comfortable with silence. Not really, I'm not. Hey, Tori, where are you in terms of setting things up for your practice? I know that you were getting started. And I think too that your questions might come across like a little bit slower on my end than on yours. So if that's true, hey Leah. If that's if I'm not answering right away, that's why they're just not coming through that quickly. Okay, so while you are, what problems do you have with not facing the camera? What problems do you have with not? Oh, maybe with the light not facing the camera? The camera for me, I have two laptops because I'm paranoid, so I had to have a backup in case things didn't go well. The laptop on my camera is forward facing at the very, very top. So right now I'm actually looking at the picture on my screen. So hopefully it looks like I'm looking directly at you. So when I'm talking to clients, I have their picture in the center of my screen so that it looks like I'm talking directly to them and I can actually be looking at them at the same time. Tori's making sure she has all of the paperwork figured out. How do I accept payments? That's real easy. So I use a company called Square, and okay, here's what you need to know in terms of HIPAA. If you are sending an invoice by any electronic means, you fall under HIPAA, and so you need to adhere to HIPAA criteria. HIPAA lists what PHI is. In fact, let me make a little note to myself. I'm going to add the PHI list onto our Google Drive because it includes things that you wouldn't just typically think. Even initials are PHI, email address is PHI. So when clients want to use Square to get their invoices, all I do is enter their email address, click like 2 buttons, it takes no time at all, put in the amount charged for the session and hit send. And that invoice goes to their email. And because it's invoicing an email, that has to fall under HIPAA. So I have them sign a release for me that says that they are cool with PHI being released through email. And I explain to them exactly what that PHI would be. And that if they ever wanted to expand beyond that PHI, I would need a new release. Because I want to keep it as tight as possible. And I'm happy to share that paperwork with you so that you don't have to indent the language. That paperwork's not been looked at by a lawyer, so you want to have your lawyer look at it if you have one. I am probably going to get a lawyer to go through all of my paperwork probably in October. And I'm going to have a lawyer check it out from North Carolina point of view where I'm licensed and also from a Florida point of view. So if any of you want to use the paperwork after that, I will see about how I can share that. You would still want to make sure that you get it looked at on your own. I don't want to be liable for anything on your end. Okay, so also with regard to payments, the way that HIPAA is setting up the language, there's been some major changes to HIPAA in the last several years. So if you were trained in old school HIPAA, you want to check out the new school HIPAA. It's way better for us. Basically, the major change was that clients were complaining that their therapists were being obnoxious with not emailing them back when they were getting emails or not communicating electronically when that was the client's clear preference. And so HIPAA acknowledged that maybe they were being tighter than what clients wanted or needed. And so they made a caveat that if a client signs off, they can basically do whatever they want to do so long as you're cool with it too. So you have to figure out where your risk tolerance is and what you're willing to share by email, and your client has to sign off for that. With regard to getting invoicing and things like that, what I always tell my clients is that we can work out the money in lots and lots of ways. Let me tell you what most people do, and then you tell me if you're comfortable with that, and if so, cool. If not, then we'll go through some other ways to do it. Because what you don't want to do is have them opt out of it on your paperwork. They have to opt in. So according to HIPAA, they have to opt into however you're going to do it if it's going to involve electronic communication. So I can't just be like, hey, I send stuff through Square. If you're not cool with that, let me know. That wouldn't be in line with HIPAA standards. All right, let me scroll back up here. So I think that hopefully answered your question, Emily. With regard to paying up front or paying after session, I have them pay after, but I know people who do it both ways, and maybe another year into my practice I'll do it differently, but right now I just immediately after session I schedule the next session, I bill through Square, and write the note. So I use that 10-minute window between sessions to get those 3 things done. Let's see, Maria, hi. You'd like to know about online marketing practices. And I just want to keep scrolling here for a minute, trying to get the language right to show that I offer these services. It says telemental health, online therapy, etc. That's a great question. Informed consent related to online services. Okay, you guys are having some trouble seeing it. It's super clear on my end. I will tell you this. If you have Skype on your phone or on your computer, it's not enough just to minimize it. So hover over your Skype and make sure you hit quit. And you'll want to do that if you're doing online therapy, and you'll want to tell your clients to do that too. It uses your computer in the background, so it uses up a ton of bandwidth. So close down anything if you're wanting to do video. All right. So let's go to Maria's question about marketing online practices. If you want to work online, you have to have an online presence. So the people that are trying to find an online therapist are going to be people who are very comfortable with ways of connecting online. The most common way that people are connecting online who are in the age group and financial bracket you would need them to be to use your services is on Facebook. So if you're picking any of the social media, there's no reason that you need to do all of them all at once. Like, that's just a little bit too much to take on. If you're trying to figure out what's the most bang for my buck, Facebook is. So you definitely want to set up a professional Facebook page. If you're uncomfortable with the idea that people could put personal stuff on your Facebook page, you can shut it down so that they can't make comments, or they can, but you have to approve them. I've gotten much more comfortable with that, and I've had my professional Facebook page up over a year. I've never had anybody make any inappropriate, personally disclosing comments, and mine's wide open, so they could if they wanted to. I have had somebody make like a weird comment that I later hid, but it wasn't like a client disclosure or personal disclosure. So Facebook is where you want to go. In terms of what you want to call yourself, there's this really sweet feature on Google. I will look it up for you and share it a little bit later. But it's a way that you can find out what the most commonly searched for terms are. And so every now and then I do that again to see what the terms are that most people are using. Counseling is far more popular of a term than therapy or psychotherapy. So if you're thinking about like what keywords to put embedded in your website, or some of you who are very smart with your email addresses or your website addresses can use therapy and counseling, which is brilliant because those are the top 2 most searched for things. Many people who find you are not looking for online counseling. They're just looking for a great therapist in the niche that they need help with. So market your niche. Don't worry so much about the online piece. You definitely want to have that listed, that you do that. And you want it prominently displayed, because if it's all that you're doing, it's going to be real annoying to get a bunch of calls from people who aren't willing to do that. But people are searching for your niche, so make sure that you are marketing your niche strongly. All right, let me get back over here. Getting clients. Okay, great question. So getting clients, let me think about how to organize my thoughts on this. If I were to go back in time and think about the most useful things I did, and also where I wasted time, my Facebook professional page was super useful, mostly because it helps boost SEO for me and makes me more findable. And clients, even if they're not finding you online, like if they get your name through a referral, they're going to check you out online if they're the sort of people who are going to see you for online counseling. So you want that stuff to be up. It does not need to be perfect. You just need it up. So get your professional Facebook page up. I also did some kind of weird things, like iTherapy set up a Reddit Q&A for me. And I did one focused on trauma and trauma recovery, and I was intimidated. I was really nervous about it, like what's going to happen. So I put myself out there, and people asked questions. They did share personal things, but I had like one hell of a disclaimer at the top, and I repeated it frequently. And several clients have found me through that, because what they're Googling is not, can I get an online therapist? I've had maybe 4 people find me searching for online therapists, maybe 5. What they find me is in my niche. So posting about trauma and then finding resources, you got to give them good stuff. You can't just say like, hey, I'm a therapist, come find me. I think that's the biggest mistake people make, is they put themselves up on Psychology Today and they think, okay, I've hung my shingle, like why aren't clients finding me? Or I've listed myself on a directory, how come I'm not getting clients? Well, there are a million people listed on directories and on Psychology Today. So you have to have the right people finding you, and you do that by putting out the right content. So I would definitely list on a directory. Psychology Today works okay for me. It really depends on your area. So in South Florida, Psychology Today is pretty good. Good Therapy is pretty good. I don't get a ton of clients from those places, but it's a place where people can check me out when they've heard about me from somewhere else, and it boosts my SEO, so it's worth the investment for me, and Facebook is free. The other thing is that I put content out on YouTube. You can put content on blogs, but here's the thing. You know, here's some dumb stuff I did. So I paid a lot of money for Facebook ads, and the Facebook ads were things like, you know, I'm an online therapist, like call me for an appointment. Not one person has called me for an appointment from a Facebook ad, and I've spent a decent amount of money doing that. So don't do that. And here's why that doesn't work. That's a cold audience. Cold audiences aren't going to invest $200, $300 in a therapy session with you. They don't know you, and a website, you know, profile picture and a bio is not going to be enough to get them to reach you. So you have to turn your cold audiences into warm audiences, and you do that by giving them useful content. So when I'm sharing YouTube videos, I mostly do that because I think it's fun and I want to help people who aren't going to get into therapy. But there's a lot of secondary gains, which is I become more findable. And people who might have been like on the fence about getting into therapy feel like they're coming to know me. And when they feel like they know me a little, they trust me a little bit more, and they're more likely to reach out. I've had several people contact me and say, I haven't been sure about doing therapy, but I watched several of your YouTube videos, and I just kept feeling like maybe you really got it, and so I'm just calling to see if maybe I could do a consultation. So I don't think it's enough just to list yourself places. That's like opening up an office and waiting for walk-in appointments. You don't get them. You have to make connections. So the other connections that I strongly suggest you make are with likely referral sources in your area or outside your area too, if you happen to be there and you can make face-to-face connections. So physicians are always looking for therapists to refer to. If you can connect to physicians and let them get to know you and make them into a warm audience by giving them some free, useful stuff, you're more likely to get referrals. As I was saying, if I could go back and change one thing, I would have not made a stupid Pinterest page, which no client's ever going to find me on. I would have gotten a program called Hootsuite way earlier, which takes your Facebook posts and sends them to your other social media, so you don't have to mess around with dumping content in lots of different places. I would have started recording YouTube videos earlier. And most importantly, other than my professional Facebook page, I would have contacted physicians earlier and started making those connections because they've been a very, very good referral source. The other thing, and probably the thing that's gotten me the most clients early, was I was just so damn excited about doing this that I was talking about it all the time, everywhere, and with authentic joy and enthusiasm. So I was posting on my personal Facebook page a lot about like, guess what I'm getting to do? This is so awesome. And you know, like it's been so great to be able to meet with people online, and I'm so excited about what I'm doing. And I think, like weirdly, because it was not my intention, but I think that got people thinking like, oh, I know a therapist. And so I had lots of friends contact me and say like, my cousin needs help with XYZ. Would it be okay for me to give them your contact information? All right, let me go back and look at some questions. Okay, I'm keeping up pretty well. I'm trying to get the language right. Leslie, I think the more of those words you use, the better. So just any you can embed them in the back of your web page, or like on, if you have a iTherapy listing or something like that, you can embed them for your search engines, or if you have YouTube videos, you can embed those words, embed them all. If you go to my YouTube page, you look up Dr. Amber Lyda YouTube, you'll find that there's a list of keywords under each of them, and I just list like a whole bunch of stuff: telemental health, mental health, counseling, telecounseling, online therapy, online psychotherapy, online counseling, anxiety, depression, trauma, because that's what's going to help people to find you. If you're thinking about like what to call it, just in a title, probably counseling is a good word to use, and online. Those seem like, or like online therapy via secure video. All right. Okay, never mind. You're using Facebook Live. Where's my coffee? Yeah, I wish I would have gotten some coffee before I got back up here. Oh, I hate that it's freezing up. Is it clearer now for folks? I hope so. Looks like it's helping people to look at it on their phone. Do you offer a free consultation? Yes. And I do kind of a weird consultation, I think. So I offer a free 30-minute consultation. I might say it's 20 sometimes, but it's really 30. And I lead with the intention to help that person, whether or not I'm going to be the right fit. So my idea is, and I say this to them, my goal is to help you get connected to the best services for you. So I'm going to ask you some questions to get to know what you need, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and a little bit about online therapy, and let you ask some questions. And then by the end, we should have an idea if this might be a good fit and worth moving on to the initial intake, which will give us an even cleaner picture of what's up and what you might need, or if it would make more sense for me to help you get connected to somebody who's a better fit, like right out of the gate, so that you don't, that's probably all I say. I'm not going to say so you don't waste time and money doing an initial intake. If you can demonstrate that you get that client during the consultation, that is more likely to turn over into an actual client. So I was reading something about stats recently. Most clients only come to one session, and it's that first meeting. That's just at least in university counseling centers, that's the modal number of sessions. So it's very important to me that I try to help them as much as possible in that first contact, because I might never see them again, even if that's getting them to another therapist. I mean, several of you have gotten referrals from me. So yeah, free 30 minutes, and I do after meeting follow-up to help them get connected if I wasn't the right fit for them. And interestingly, like, that has resulted in me getting referrals down the line too. So even if in that moment it doesn't support my business, it feels good for me and it's in line with my values. And down the line, sometimes there are some gains that they refer somebody else to me, or they try a therapist and they say, like, actually, that wasn't what I needed help with. It turned out to be this, and I think you're the person for me. Okay, what software do I use? If I'm missing questions, just let me know. What software do I use? So let's back up for a second and talk about the different folks that are in the room. So some people in the room right now have brick and mortar private practices, and they're just looking to expand to pick up some online clients, and they want to know how to do that legally and ethically. If that's the case, you probably already have note software and billing software and all that kind of thing, and all you need is a HIPAA compliant video. If that's the case for you, you don't need to sign up with a big hub service necessarily. Maybe you just want to get the free video software, like DoxyMe has free HIPAA compliant software for private practice folks. If you want more than just video, let's say you are moving to electronic health records and you didn't have them yet in your brick and mortar, or you're starting an online practice from scratch, or starting your private practice from scratch, you might choose to go with a company that offers all of the things that you need in one place. And that's what I did, because I had never had a private practice before. I'd been in community agencies, and when I started doing the research into, like, what email do I need and what fax and blah, 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 it was just really overwhelming. So I went with a company called iTherapy, and they have HIPAA compliant email, fax, phone, video, notes software, anything you need, that they've got it, and they manage all of your business associates agreements for you, so you don't have to do that either. And they have like business building consultations and stuff like that. So they're great. I love them. There are other agencies that do the same kind of thing. So if you're looking for a platform, people use that word to mean different things. And so if you're wanting a platform that has it all, make sure you're looking at something like iTherapy. If you're looking for a platform specifically just for video, that's different. You could look at Secure Video. You could look at Zoom. You could look at Doxyme. When I was first putting together my practice, I got quotes for all of those things separately. And then when I heard back from my therapy, their quote was actually lower than me getting all those things separately. So I just ended up going with them. Oh, good. I'm glad, hope that you're not having any problems seeing. Hootsuite is the name of a social media program that ships your content out to all the other places. Let's see. Oh, there's lots of questions now. Okay, I'm going to have to stop talking so long. Free consultations, good referral sources, depends on your niche, Tori. So I ended up seeing a lot of people with health anxiety, and I've been doing a lot of anxiety work, probably because it's a lot of similar stuff to doing trauma work. So that naturally ended up getting me connected to physicians because I was calling my clients physicians. And then we had a good relationship, so they referred more clients to me. Here's a little trick if you haven't done private practice. If you're in a community agency, you know how sometimes you do not have time to get records from previous providers? Don't make that mistake in private practice, because not only is it best practices and you should make time to do it, but it also connects you to people who could be referral sources or who you might end up referring to. So follow up on all those previous therapists or previous psychiatrists. I try to always talk to their physicians as well, but that's also part of just how I conceptualize things, so that might be a reason. How do I come up with content for my YouTube and blogs? I have a really hard time doing blogs because I don't have the attention span to do them. With the video content on YouTube, it's just easier for me because I'll have a thought after a session and I'll just sit down, like honestly, I'll sit down and start recording. I'll flub it a few times and then I kind of get it straight in my head and I make the recording from start to finish. I think I'm hiring somebody soon to make my YouTube videos cleaner, like to have an intro and an extra, and to actually like make use of some of the SEO ability on YouTube, which I'm not doing right now because it's a pain in the butt and I'm not a techie person. But I think I'll be hiring somebody soon to do that. Let's see, Angie, I think we answered your question about software. Oh, good. I'm glad it's clear for you too, Maria. What kind of camera do I use for my YouTube videos? Yes, it does matter. So here's where I messed up. My laptop is a MacBook. I hate Apple products. I inherited it, and I hate this stupid computer. But nicely, the video camera's in the center. I can't record my YouTube videos on it because I just have user error problems with this stupid computer. So I bought a laptop, which I wrote off. And I bought an external camera because the camera on that one is in the corner, so it's super awkward. And I bought a Logitech camera. They're great cameras. They're not crazily expensive, but one mistake that I did make is I bought the wide angle one. I just thought that that would be better, and it's not, because for me, my background is shorter than the wide angle lens. So there's probably, unless you have like just a beautiful office space behind you, there's probably no reason to get a wide angle lens. It costs a little bit more, and it also makes you smaller in the frame, so that's probably not good either. Do you prefer private pay or insurance? Shyla, private pay all the way. I don't take insurance. I have just started doing what they're called super bills for out-of-network providers. So I did get an MPI number recently. That was real easy, and if you want to be able to offer your clients a super bill so that they could see about getting reimbursed for your sessions, you need an MPI number. It really took like 5 minutes, so you can just Google it online. It's super, super fast. But all of my sessions are private pay. I feel pretty strongly about that. So yeah, that's all I'll say about that for now. If you have other questions, I'll answer them, but I'm going to leave that. There's some values issues there for me. How do you identify referrals? I'm not sure what you mean, Hope. Can you clarify? Tori, do you need e-documents or hard copies for clients to sign consents? Great question, Tori. So it's different by state. And in the state of Florida, it's not clear in the health professions section of the legal code whether or not, you know how on the computer you can do like an electronic signature? You just push a button and you type your name in, and you're like, yeah, that counts as an electronic signature. When I was working at another facility, we could not get the clearance by our lawyer to let that count. So what we ended up doing is we used iPads, and the clients could sign it with their finger or with a stylus, and that could get by our lawyer. So what I do with clients is I send them the paperwork via email. It would be cleaner to send it via your software, and you can do that. Theranest is the note software that iTherapy uses, and you can send documents via Theranest if you prefer to do that. I have the client print it out and then send it back to me. If you're using Theranest, they can just upload it directly to Theranest, which is lovely because it's encrypted and really, really safe. My clients so far have preferred just to email it to me. There are scanner apps that you can get on your phone that are HIPAA compliant, and so they just take a picture of the paperwork, it turns it into a PDF, and they can email it or fax it to me via their phone. It's super easy and convenient. So I want their signature. I also ask them, I didn't do this in the beginning, but I do now, I ask them to send me a copy of their driver's license. Because there are some states that are kind of weird about that, and they want you to prove that the person who you're seeing is the person who they say they are, which you guys never do that in private practice face-to-face. You're never like, but are you really? Hope Evans? No, you don't. But whatever. So the most conservative thing you can do is just to ask for the picture of their ID. I always tell them that they can mark out any details that they want. I just want to see their picture, and I want to see their signature so that I can compare the signatures. Everybody seems pretty comfortable with that. What's the monthly fee for iTherapy? Hope is asking. They have tiers of service, so you get the very least that you need. When I started with them, I had their lowest level plan because I didn't think I needed the note software. That was dumb. I should have just gotten it. But I only had like 2 clients. I was like, I'll just keep it in Word, and I'll, get it password protected and encrypted. That was a major headache. I wish I would have just gotten the full package, but I pay for their highest level package, which is $150 a month. And then I get credit if anybody tells them that I referred them to iTherapy, then I get some of that back. I can't remember how much it is, and I'd hate to say it and then they change it, and now it's like in perpetuity on Facebook, but they give you some sort of credit back if somebody says that you referred them. Naomi is asking, what are the criteria that I use to make a decision whether or not to work with a client or refer them out? So I think about 2 tiers. One is, would I take this person in my private practice, period? So I define my scope of practice. Whether I was in brick or mortar or online, I don't want to be a crisis clinician. So I feel very protective of my time outside of work. I've worked really hard, really long hours, and commuted really long hours for a really long time. And when I made the decision to transition into private practice, it was because I wanted to keep doing what I love to do, and I wanted to have a life outside of work. So it's very, very important to me to make sure I take clients who are a good fit for what I'm able to offer, because I'm not going to be able to offer frequent crisis sessions and stay within the model that I want to work in. So in terms of that first tier, private practice, if somebody's at super high risk and they're going to need lots of crisis stabilization sessions to keep them stable and functioning, I refer them to a higher level of care. Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good summary. And then I also think about what clients am I good at working with and what clients am I not. I know that for me, I'm not really good at working with folks who have restricting types of eating disorders. That's not my expertise. I think you need a very high level of skill to do that successfully, and the same with substance abuse. So I don't treat people who I know I don't treat as good as somebody down the road. I'd rather refer them to somebody who can do a better job. I love working with trauma, but I make sure that the folks that I take into the practice are functioning pretty well and they've done some baseline trauma work so that they don't exceed my scope of service in my private practice. If I'm thinking about like online work, I'm going to give you two answers. So a lot of people will say that you shouldn't take high-risk clients, let me rephrase that, clients with suicidal thoughts into online work. Because most people say that, I'm very careful about taking those folks into my practice and tend not to. But I think in the next few years, that's probably going to change overall, because think about it. What would you do differently with a client who's thinking about suicide in person versus on video? Like, do you tackle that person in your office and say you can't leave until you safety contract with me? Like, no, you would never do that. And if they ran out of your office or ran out of the video session, what would you do? You would call the police and do a welfare check. So that's what I would do online too. I always get my clients' physical address before session. And if they're going to be somewhere different that week, that they have to give me their physical address, and I say that's in case of medical or psychological emergency. And I make it very clear that I will send the police and whoever's on your emergency contact list to you if we get to that place. So they have informed consent about that. But I'm careful. In terms of other folks I don't think are a good fit, and this is my personal opinion, it could evolve over time, but if I need to see a person's whole body to have a good sense of assessment in our work, that's not a good fit, because I'm only going to see from the chest up. So if it's somebody who's likely to have a lot of non-suicidal self-injury, and I would miss it if on their legs there are a bunch of scars and they might normally have shown, that's not going to be somebody I would take on. Or if somebody has an eating disorder and I'm missing some of the cues I would be getting from seeing their full body, or if somebody has an alcohol abuse issue and they might be coming to session drunk and I'm not going to be able to smell it, that's not somebody who would be a good fit. Those are the sorts of things that I think about. Somebody who's not good at technology, somebody who doesn't want to do online work, but they just really, really want to work with you, but they're not comfortable doing online work, and I'm going to get them connected to somebody else. Tori's asking, how do I explain super bills? Is this helpful, you guys? Could you give me some feedback? I'm feel like I'm talking into the ether, so I'm not sure, little thumbs up or something, so I know that this is useful. Or if I need to slow down, let me know. How do I explain super bills? So if a client comes to me and they say, I really want to see you for therapy, I can afford the rate, but I'd really like to try to get it covered by insurance, I will say, most insurances are not covering online mental health treatment yet. Some of them are. So you probably want to do that work. If you really aren't sure if you can afford my rate, do that work before you make the decision to meet with me. Like if it's a bonus to you to get that money back, cool. If it's a requirement, I don't want you to start with me and then have to start with somebody else. So talk to your insurance company and see what they say. And if you guys want, I can give you my super bill template. Let me add that to the list. And it has on there the online therapy codes that you would need to submit, the CPT codes. And I tell them that I can fill it out and give it to them, and they can submit it and see what the insurance company says. So I really put the onus on them, and I make it clear that, may or may not get reimbursed, and that really can't, I don't want that to be on me, that they need to figure that out. Medicaid and Medicare are really leading the charge when it comes to online health, and they are reimbursing at the same rate for online care as they do for in-person care, which is awesome because I think that private companies are starting to do the same thing. The other thing that you can think about if you have a client, let's say with agoraphobia, and their insurance company doesn't cover online work, sometimes they do in special circumstances. So if they have a condition that would preclude them from being able to go into an office, like agoraphobia, then sometimes the insurance company will work around that. So I just tell the client that and let the client handle it. Again, for my personal business, I want it to be tight, and I don't want to get myself in the same position that I was in working in community agencies where I was working 50, 60-hour work weeks. So I keep, from a business model point of view, I keep things very tight about what I'm willing to do and what I'm not. Okay, thanks guys, that feedback is helpful. I know such a consent is very long and detailed, so long, so detailed. How did you put that together, and why did you decide to make it so detailed? Martine, I probably have a low level of OCPD, and that's probably why. What I did with that consent form, which is on our Google Drive, if you guys want to take a look at it, I took the consent forms that iTherapy gave me. They offer templates for everything, so I used their template. I had a friend who had a lawyer look at her consents, and she was doing online work, so I pulled stuff from there that wasn't already in the template for iTherapy. And then I think I used one other person's as well, and then I went through and just tried to get it into my language as much as possible, minus the legalese sections. It's too damn long. I just have not had time to go back through and edit it. It used to be two separate forms, multiple pages, because I had the stuff about PHI and what they were giving me releases for on a separate document, and that was just confusing. So I put it all on one document. And don't forget, you guys, in addition to the informed consent, you have to share that privacy page that the government requires, and you have to go in and do some edits to it to personalize it to you. But there is a template online. So just look up privacy policy, HIPAA, medical records, and you should be able to find the version online, a template that you can edit for your practice. Let's see. With Theranos, you have to create the document in their software to send it, don't you? Or can you send the client your own doc through them? Martine's asking. I don't know the answer to that. I haven't done that. I know that with Theranos, you can create your own templates. Like I could create my own intake template. So far, I've just used theirs. One day I hope to create my own. It's too busy and I haven't gotten to it. I don't know about the paperwork. I know, so what I do with the paperwork, when I send them the informed consents and they send it back to me, however they choose to do that, I upload them into the clinical documents section of Theranos, so I keep it in their electronic health record, and then I destroy my copy on the computer. So I never have a physical copy at all, but I'm not sure about Theranos. How long have you generally been keeping clients for? The average time a client stays with you? That's a great question. Having grown up in community mental health care and university counseling centers, we were trained to get people out of therapy as quickly as possible, to be hopeful quickly and make room for the next person that's coming in. And so I bring that value system into private practice, and I let people know, like, we're going to be working hard because I want you to be able to graduate from therapy. I don't want you to be in here forever. Which feels weird because from a business point of view, probably better for me to keep them, but I just can't get down with that. So I would say there's probably a bimodal distribution of people who I see under 12 sessions and people that I've seen for over a year. My form of therapy tends to be a conglomeration of stuff. Like I do a lot of behavioral stuff, I do a lot of ACT stuff, but my way of being in the room is interpersonal process, and I come from a psychodynamic background, so we try to hit symptom stuff out of the door as quickly as we can, but then we're probably doing deeper work on like maladaptive cyclical patterns and that sort of thing. I will say with the consultation model that I'm using, the 30 minutes, I seem to be turning over a lot more consultations into initial intakes than other people, and more intakes into ongoing clients than other people. So I think there's something to be said for the extended meeting if you're using it to really get to know that client and to let them understand that you know them. And my intakes are 90 minutes long. Like, I'm not messing around with the intakes. I ask a lot of questions, and all of it's geared towards, like, I really, really want to understand what's going on, so that we come at this in a way that's going to be most helpful to you. I've had one person in the last year not continue with me from the intake, and we both knew that we were on the fence about whether we would continue after the intake. So Everybody else is continued, not after the consultation, but after the intake. Tori, starting out with no money, what would you suggest having or using for online therapy? Great question. I have two schools of thought about that. If you're building a business, you're going to spend money. There's no way to make money without spending some money. So I often will think about, when I get frustrated with how much money I'm spending, I think about if I were in a physical practice, how much would I be spending to rent space and that kind of thing? Because I'm super cheap just as a human. So sometimes my version of like, I don't have money, really means I don't like spending money. So really ask yourself, like, how much really do I have to invest in creating this business? And then get very clear about where is it smart to invest money. If things are super tight, you can do things to decrease your expenditure without decreasing your marketability. So I would absolutely invest money in either getting on a directory that doesn't just list your name, but lists stuff about you. Whether it's Psychology Today or iTherapy or Good Therapy, but like one of the heavier hitters, one of the SEO top-notchers, because you don't need a website. So don't spend your money or your time on a website yet. I think that's a big waste. If all you're doing is starting a private practice, your directory listing can serve as your website for now. So if I were to go back in time, I would take all of those hours back that I spent screwing around on creating a website, and I wouldn't have done that yet. I don't even know my brand yet. How am I supposed to be branding myself? So that, I would have just pushed all that branding stuff out like 2 years, because if you're just starting, you don't know what your brand is yet. So don't worry about it. Your professional Facebook page is free. Definitely do that. Definitely invest some money on an online listing, and a lot of them, I think like Psychology Today, there's a free coupon now for like 6 months free or something like that. So you can hop around too, like hop around to the freebies for a while. Videoing is free. YouTube is free. Connecting with doctors is free. If you do those things, you'll be good. Business cards. Don't spend a lot of money on your business cards. Don't spend a lot of time on your business cards. I spent a stupid amount of time trying to brand myself on business cards, and again, you will not know your brand if you're just starting, and if you do, it's going to change in 2 years anyway. So get a very simple business card that just has the right contact information on there, and you're not even going to give that many of them out anyway, but do get it on nice paper, because that does matter. I think that's probably it in terms of, like, you don't have to invest a lot of money. If I were trying to keep it very inexpensive, I would do two things. I would get DoxyMe and see if it worked well for my computer. It's free. And I probably keep my notes. I mean, Theranos is cheap. The software things are not expensive, and once you start seeing more than 4 clients, it's just really nice to be able to keep it there. If you're very tech savvy and you're good at like making sure you're encrypting things and double password protecting them, and that you're, I would still get an external hard drive and an encrypting external hard drive, and I would save things to that rather than to my laptop, or at least have a backup there. Or maybe, I don't know the cost of this, but it might be worth getting G Suite on Google. They have a HIPAA compliant cloud saving, like a place you can store your stuff on the cloud as a backup, so you lose your documents. I don't know the cost of that, so you might want to look that over. Okay, do you address not wanting to be a crisis clinician? Yes, I do, in the informed consent, yeah. And the way that I frame that is if you're going to need more than once a week therapy to keep you stable. Not just that you'd like more than once a week to make faster progress, but that you need it really to be able to function and not end up suicidal or in a crisis stabilization unit. I want to get you connected to somebody who can do that for you, because my schedule is not set up to be able to do that, and I don't monitor my email or my phone in a way that would support me doing that. So I want to get you connected to services that do work in that way. So that's how I frame it. Do I do my consult over video or phone? I offer to do it either way that they would, whichever way they would like. And I tell them I'm happy to do it by phone, but if you'd like to get a sense of what it would feel like to be meeting, we can do it via video too. And when I tell them that, I'm not sure about like Doxy and those programs because I don't use them, but I've used Zoom and I've used VC or Secure Video. And what I always tell them is it's going to take like 5 seconds to download the software, so that's not a big deal. But there will be an option to do an orientation session. Please do that before we meet so that if there's any techie issues that are a problem, like your audio is not working or whatever, you can get that taken care of with somebody who really knows what they're doing with tech stuff, so that when we meet, we can do the more important work of getting to know what you need and getting you connected to what you need. How much do you charge for the intake? I charge $300 for the intake. I charge $200 for 50 minutes. So the intake's 90 minutes. So I charge $300 for that, and I charge $200 for my 50-minute weekly therapy sessions. About half my client load is. So see, this feels weird to talk about money publicly. My goal was to get 12 to 15 clients at my full fee, and that would get me to more than my previous income at my other job. So I now have a full caseload, and I think I've been doing this full time since January or February, and I would say I am 80% to where maybe 75% to where I want to be in terms of having all of my clients pay the fee that I need them to pay. Do you practice from your home? Do you use your home address on business or corporation documents? Great question, Beverly. I do practice from my home. There are some real benefits to that for me. So I have a tiny, tiny little house, and I get to write off quite a bit of my expenses, like from pool maintenance to like electricity to all of that stuff. So that's cool. And I have a very conservative tax guy because I'm like, don't do anything shady. I don't want to get in trouble. The drawbacks are that I do have to use my home address on my incorporation documents and things like that. I am planning to purchase a physical address for things like MailChimp, which you guys probably don't need. I'm trying to build a separate business, so I need it for that. I don't want my home number on there. But here's the problem. Even with your state licensing board, you have to give the business address. And now that it's just my home, I have to have that on file with them. There's an option for getting it not public. I don't like it. But if anybody types my name into Google, they can have my address because I'm a homeowner. So most of you, as paranoid as we are about not wanting our address to be available, if a client wants to find it, they can. How long did it take you to build your practice into full-time? Ginger's asking. Well, I was building it part-time while I was still working full-time at my last job. So I had maybe 3 or 4 clients that I was seeing regularly while I was still part-time there. And when I quit my job, I think I was still like 4 or 5. And was building. At that point, I was doing like more networking and stuff like that. And it was probably maybe a month ago that I hit what I really wanted to be at was 12 at my full fee. I'm at 15 with some sliding scale, some full fee clients. So what is that, like 7 months? Yeah, 6 or 7 months. If you don't want to work with a client because you just don't connect with them, what do you say to them in order to be able to refer them out? I'm trying to think about like how I'm trying to think about like a time when I didn't connect, and when I don't connect, it's almost always because I'm just not getting it. Like I can't get behind the shield to see them. So usually that's something that I'll say, like the connection is so important. It's one of the primary movers of progress in therapy. And, like when you get the right person, you guys get each other really quickly. And I'm having trouble seeing behind the screen here. So I'm wondering if there's something like hard for you and opening up to me, or if I'm just missing it, it might not be the right fit for you. Tell me about how it's feeling for you as we're talking. Or if I'm feeling like what they really need is CBT, like real structured CBT, and that's not me, then I'm going to say, I know the type of therapy that would be really helpful for you. It's not the type that I do. So I want to get you connected to somebody who's an expert in the type of therapy that's going to be the best fit for you. I say that a lot. I would say when I was first, probably still like 60% of the people or more that I do consults with, I refer to other people because they're not a good fit for me, and I'm not a good fit for them. So if you haven't already, make sure that you list yourself on that pinned post in the online therapy group so that we can refer to each other. What forms do we need to get started with online work? And we're at 50 minutes, so we're going to wrap up here shortly. If you've got another question, go ahead and drop it in the chat box. You need an informed consent, which would include how you're going to bill. If it's electronically, you're going to need some questions there about, like, is it okay for me to send, like, PHI via email or by text message, because you can also send the receipts to their through text. So you need all of that stuff on your informed consent. I always have a release of information ready so that whoever they've worked with in the past, I want to contact as many of those folks as possible. Informed consent, ROI, you need your privacy policy page, which is that one that you download the template for and just add in your details. And I'm forgetting something. There's one more form. You probably need like a fax cover page. I just made one like in 5 minutes, so it's not real hard to do. Oh, what is the other form I'm blanking on? No, I'm not, because you blend the two, the invoicing form into the informed consent. So your informed consent, your release of information, a copy of their driver's license, and that privacy page. Yeah, I think that's it. You guys, this has been super fun. I'm glad that so many of you came. I hope that it was helpful. I am going to try to get this recorded so that we can use it later, but if there are folks that you think need to see it, send them over to the group ASAP, just in case I am not tech savvy enough to get it recorded. I think this will continue to show up on Facebook at least for a while. And then we'll see if I can get it saved, and if so, I will definitely share it again. If you guys have more questions, please ask them in our group. Please refer over people that you think would be a good fit. I want this community to be inclusive and supportive, and I want to be helpful to you. I am going to be sharing more documents on Google Drive. If you can let me know what would be helpful for you, I'm happy to create that material. I'm probably going to be creating a course for folks, so if you want to share with me what you think would be most helpful to have in a course, let me know that too. It won't be a credentialing course. There are plenty of people who are doing that. I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to do just got cut off. I think I might be back on. More of helping people to build a business. So I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.